Hello, and welcome to the News and Research session of the Bloomberg Essentials online training program. My name is Alex Lang, and I will be teaching you the basics behind Bloomberg's latest news functions. This instructional video will teach you how to leverage the Bloomberg system to screen for the most important, market-moving news from every region, topic, source, and language in the modern business arena. Users of Bloomberg have access to over 26,000 web sources, 3,000 blogs, and most importantly, direct access to Bloomberg News. With over 2,300 media professionals working in 146 bureaus across 72 different countries, Bloomberg News offers you the first, fastest, fairest, future, and final word in financial news. Today, I will walk you through a top-down method of news gathering on the terminal. Then we will discuss the background organization of news and research stories, which will provide us with context to build sample searches and alerts. The session will end with an explanation of our multimedia resources and general tips and tricks. So, to get started, the quickest and easiest way to access news headlines on Bloomberg is to type the letter N followed by the Go key. NGO is Bloomberg's main news portal. It can be driven by the three buttons at the top right, labeled Top, Popular, and All. It can also be driven by the gray buttons to your left. When the page is first loaded, it should default to show the top news stories worldwide from Bloomberg journalists as selected by our editors. This page can also be accessed by typing TOP Go. Let's click on a story. At the top right of the story is the date and time it was published on Bloomberg, along with the page count. Different options are available by typing 98Go or selecting the Options button. One helpful option is 66 Send Story. This allows you to attach this story to a message and send along to any valid email address. Clicking on the 97 Attachments button will allow you to download any attachments that were uploaded with this story, such as graphs or documents. The amber field allows you to do a quick search for keywords within the story. Below the amber field is the actual title of the story, followed by the story's version. Here we can see this is the fourth update to this story. All the way to the right is an option to star or bookmark the story. By clicking on this button or pressing 91 followed by the Go key, you have chosen to add this story to your list of bookmarked items. To recall this list, you can simply type BKMK. Let's go back to the regular story. Along the right-hand side of the story, you see a gray bar from which you can navigate to further areas of related news. In the top section are located some of the same options that were available to us in the 98 Options button. We also have the option to click on any related video or photos associated with the story, see a list of the companies mentioned in the story, click through to see topics, or even learn more about people included in this. At the top of the story are the journalists' bylines. If you scroll down with me to the end of the story, you can see additional topics listed by the editors themselves. The very bottom of the story contains the name, phone number, and Bloomberg email addresses of the journalists and their editors. Let's return to the main page by hitting NGO once more. Notice that upon our return to the NGO view, the story now carries a star mark next to it, indicating that this is a story we have bookmarked. Were it only a story that we had read, it would simply include this check mark. Now let's take a look at the Popular button. But before we get started, notice that we are still on the worldwide topic. The stories in this view are listed in order of popularity, and they can be adjusted according to the inputs you select in the Range, Filter, and Sort By button. Let's click on Popular. And here you can see the Range, Filter, and Sort By buttons. Finally, let's click through to the All button. By clicking on the All button while in the worldwide topic, you are essentially viewing news items from Bloomberg, other newswires, and internet sources as they are published to the Bloomberg system on a real-time basis. A little bit later on, I will show you how to build searches to filter this raw feed of news for that which is most important to you. Let's go back to the NGO page real quick. I now want to show you how we can use the gray toolbar on the left-hand side to quickly view the most important news Bloomberg has to offer in different categories. Do you remember that when we load NGO, it defaults to show us the top stories in the worldwide topic? Well, scroll down and you can see that the worldwide top page includes different categories for its news, such as general, government, and sports. But say that we were more interested in seeing stories on commodities. In that case, we can choose commodities from among the topics listed under the gray topics bar. Look what has changed. The blue text at the top of the NGO portal now says commodities. The stories listed below are the top stories from Bloomberg News regarding commodities, as selected by our editors. Top pages are available for additional topics and can be added to your list on the left-hand side by clicking on the blue text that says Customize. Bloomberg also suggests featured top news pages, as well as pages according to market, region, industries, etc. While we're still on the topic of commodities, I want you to click on the Popular button at the top right. Notice that before we were viewing the most popular stories available to Bloomberg users for the topic worldwide. These were sorted by most read. And I want you to notice that now we are viewing the most popular commodities stories sorted by the most read. So, whichever item you select from the topics bar will be respected by these three buttons at the top: Top, Popular, and All. You can see what I mean by selecting the All button. Notice that we are still on the topic of commodities, and that the once raw feed of news stories now only displays those which meet the criteria of pertaining to commodities. Go back with me to the NGO page. And now we're going to explore how we can further customize this function through the use of the gray toolbar. First, let's expand the My News button. Once you do this, notice that you have the option to set your My News view as the default view in your NGO portal. You can do this by clicking the white text that says 112 Go. That means that whenever you rerun N, you will see your edited My News page, as opposed to it defaulting to the worldwide topics. Right now, mine is defaulting to show general news as well as top Chicago news. Let's build a more personalized example. First, click on the blue text that reads Customize. Now select 90 Create New Page. Title the page. I'll call this one BESS. Let's begin selecting topics for our page. We can allow autocomplete to bring us topics that match our keyword criteria. For example, keywords of financial legislation, central banks, or credit derivatives may pull up matching topics. Another hint, I also have the option to add one of my custom filters. For example, I have a custom filter on the left I created for another class called Scotland Newspapers. Type that into the keyword bar to add it to your My News view. Now I'll click Save and Run. And let's go through Top Popular and All once more. Again, note that in the top left in blue text is the criteria we have selected from the gray toolbar to the left. In this case, it's the name we have given to our My News page, BESS. Click on Popular to see the most read stories for each topic in our best page. Click on All to see all stories published to the terminal that pertain to the topics from our best My News page. NGO also has the flexibility to bring up news for different securities, lists of securities, people, and even sources. Before we dive into building advanced filters, searches, and alerts, I want to show you a quick way to broadly screen for news according to different security classes. We can do this by typing STNI and pulling up our suggested news search function. This tool provides news filters for major market asset classes so that you can quickly access feeds for news most relevant to your needs. Hover over each asset class to see an explanation of the filter. Below the filters, you will have the option to select News Flow. A setting of light will actually increase the amount of criteria, making your search return a fewer number of results, while choosing the heavy news flow will give you a larger number of matching stories. Finally, we will be going over how to build an advanced search. Let's return to NGO. Building an advanced search can be done from almost any section of this tool. For example, click on 97 Actions and then select Create Advanced Search. What you are now viewing is a launching point from which we can select our custom searches criteria, with the aim of filtering for news that's most important to you. Let's say I want to only see news on earnings for companies within the S&P 500. But because of the large number of companies, I will only be looking to use a few sources for my search, say Bloomberg News, The Wall Street Journal, and The New York Times. I'll start by clicking on Ticker Lists, and from Source, I'll choose Equity Index. Since the S&P is a popular index, I'll drop down the suggested list name and choose it from here. Now that it's in my ticker list section, I'm going to save it to my alert. Here you can see that we're looking at all news from all sources on the S&P 500. But now I'm going to specify the sources I want to see it from. So I'll click on Wires and begin here. I said Bloomberg News, The Wall Street Journal, and The New York Times. Now I click on One Save, and here you can see all of the news for companies within the S&P 500 from the sources Bloomberg News, Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Once you've done this, save your search and select whether you want to be alerted whenever a story is published which meets the criteria you've selected. So click on 2, Save Set Alert, give your alert a name, and in the Alert Type section, select the method in which you wish to be alerted. There, now you've set your first alert. Let's change gears for a second and talk about another valuable type of information available to Bloomberg users, namely research. Banks, brokers, research firms, and individuals publish research on topics as specific as individual companies and as broad as economic strategy. Research on all of these topics is available to users on the RES-Go tool. This will default to show you research reports grouped under a number of different categories, including economic forecasts, strategy research, analyst research, etc. In all views in the RES function, you will see the headline of the research report, the equity analyst's rating when applicable, the source of the reports, and the number of the pages in the report. The first icon on the left with the magnifying glass allows you to preview the report in a pop-up window. From here you can decide if you want to download it, for example. Click on 1 to download, 3 next, or 2 previous to toggle back and forth between 2 pages. To simply download from the research page, click on the document icon. To view research on an industry sector like healthcare, industrials, or consumer discretionary, click on the gray sector button next to category. The sectors and research you see below can be further defined by the options you select in the drop-down menus above. For example, if I wanted to see research published for all companies within the S&P 500 index, I would click on the top left button and select Index, then specify the ticker SPX. There are a number of tools available to Bloomberg users to stay abreast of trends in the news as well. The page accessed by typing TREN-GO houses a number of these news trend functions. The top section will show studies which can track the number of times a keyword was searched versus, say, the price of a security or the level of an index over time. In the middle section, you have 6 different categories tracking trends in sentiments, readership, and story flow. And in the bottom section are listed 3 different functions for monitoring company and sector trends being covered in the news. Let's take a look at NRS-Go. News sentiment rankings are based on which companies are receiving the most positive or negative coverage in the news. Sentiment is determined by a proprietary Bloomberg algorithm, which is applied to content from thousands of news sources to determine whether the language contained in news stories is positive, negative, or neutral. To find segments from Bloomberg TV and radio, you can run AV-Go. This is a portal for all multimedia stored on the Bloomberg terminal. On the left-hand side, you have a toolbar similar to what you saw in NGO, and in the middle section, you have featured content from Bloomberg News. Also available to Bloomberg users is a source of information dedicated to market-moving news as it develops in real time. First Word shows stories which are summarized into bullet point format for quick reading, and it includes updates on press releases, important media reports, and other key developments. The First Word screen is comprised of a toolbar at the top, a sidebar on the left, and a general First Word news page. When loaded, it may default to show equity. The other main choice you can find is located in the To Focus button. Select fixed income, and the bullet point formatted stories you will see will relate mostly to the fixed income markets. This concludes the news portion of the Bloomberg Core Essentials training. If you require further assistance, simply press the Help key twice to be automatically connected to our 24/7 customer support. Thank you.